Hello, welcome to another episode of This, That, and the Other. And today I'm going to be talking about theaters that existed in the Washington, D.C. area back in early 1900s all the way into the 1970s, called Wineland Theaters. And it was founded by Lloyd J. Wineland in 1922 in Southeast D.C. And it grew to include theaters in Fairfax and Loudoun County, Virginia, Prince George's County, Maryland, Washington, D.C., and it actually built the original Tyson's Corner Theater, which was a freestanding building in the mid 1960s. It was actually the first freestanding twin theater in Tyson's Corner. I remember Tyson's Twin. It later became NTI Neighborhood Theaters, and trying to remember what it was after that. Some Simplex Odeon maybe, and not around anymore. There's a big AMC theater that's in Tyson's Corner Mall. That Tyson's Twin had several hundred seats, and the other had 500. They also had a theater in Loudoun County in Sterling Park that was a triple screen theater. I was looking at some excerpts of the grandson of Lloyd J. Wineland. Lloyd J. Wineland's son also ran the Wineland Theaters, and then his grandson after that. And he said that there were a lot of the theaters they had were around the Beltway. They had different. He said we had different theaters in Beltway locations, different exits far enough from each other. One extreme being Oxon Hill, New Carrollton, Bowie, and other extreme being Tyson's Corner. His father had researched all that and bought the properties. He was a one-man show. All the credit belongs to him, and it worked beautifully while he was CEO. So the chain was started in 1922 by his grandfather, Lloyd J. Wineland, who was a gunsmith at the Navy Yard and machinist, also a mason who belonged to the Masonic Lodge in Anacostia. And him and Elsie Pizzold were married in 1913 and 1917. Dad was born in 1922. Dad was 5 years old. His dad figured out they wanted a little something more, so they figured out a way to rent the Masonic Hall on weekends. He ran a projector they leased, and my grandfather played the piano, as there was no soundtrack as yet in those days. So his dad, at the age of 8, sold candy. He walked around the candy stand with the candy stand attached to his waist like cigarette holders, sold Mars bars, Clark bars, etc. It was a family operation with 3 of them from 1922 until 1929, at which time his grandfather had established himself and was situated so he could build a theater. At that point, he built the Anacostia Theater, a block from the Fairlawn Theater, which was the old Masonic Lodge. He also built the theater and managed it and booked the movies. He then took a partner by the name of Hollingsworth, who became a full-time film booker for the 2 theaters. In addition to the Fairlawn and Anacostia Theater, they built the Congress, Highland, Coral, and Atlantic. At that time, the advent of air conditioning came around, and a lot of people would go there just to get away from the hot weather. At their high point, the family had 17 theaters, which include all of Southeast Washington. When the Beltway came in, and then suburban Maryland and Virginia then added, Marlow Heights Theater was the first suburban theater, and it was the highest grossing theater in the first 5 years of its existence of being a theater in Washington area. That theater was located in Marlow Heights, Maryland, Prince George's County. When asked about drive-ins, his grandson said that his grandfather at first wanted nothing to do with drive-ins. They were passion pits in his estimation. But his dad recognized the importance of drive-ins and also protecting your turf. family later bought the Hillside Drive-In. A short time later acquired the ABC Drive-In in Oxon Hill on Indian Head Highway. The family later bought the Reston Twin Theaters back in the 1980s from a local man named Rennie Staubach. I believe he also owned the theaters in Sterling as well. And he was saying that between Paul Roth, Goldman family, Sumner Redstone, and later Rennie Staubach, there's some pretty good theater owners in the Fairfax County area. He's also talking about that Tyson's Twin Theater. The original Tyson's Corner Theater was a Wineland Theater, and it eventually became a twin. Between 1967 and 1968, Wineland Theaters sold their indoor theaters to neighborhood theaters of Richmond. At that point, his dad went into Wineland Theaters went into real estate, and his dad went into antiques and real estate speculation. They got out of the theater business for a few years, then went back into it some years later. After they got back into the business, they acquired a theater near Lexington, Kentucky, the Stanford Drive-In, and Lloyd G. Wineland's daughter, Kristen, the fourth generation, runs it now. And I did read that that Lloyd Wineland III passed away a few years ago, and this is just kind of like I was just kind of like doing excerpts of of when he was interviewed, and kind of interesting story there. I do my first job was in a movie theater. I worked at Roth Theaters in Tyson's Corner, and so I've kind of had an interest in the movie theater business, and I'm still looking for ideas on shows to do in the future. Like I said, my show's mainly about preserving history, especially obscure aspects of history, and this is another one of the obscure ones. That being said, like, subscribe, share. As always, thanks for watching.